The morning sun was bright, but the air around Lincoln High School felt heavy. Students moved quickly through the big iron gates, laughing, talking, and sharing weekend stories. Some carried sports bags, some walked in groups, and some moved quietly, just trying not to be noticed. And then she appeared. Her name was Maya Johnson. A black girl, tall for her age, with sharp eyes that noticed everything. She walked slowly, carrying an old backpack, wearing simple clothes, not the latest brands like other students, not flashy or colorful. She looked like someone who wanted to blend into the crowd, but strangely, she stood out. It was her silence. While other new students often looked nervous, fidgeting or trying to make friends, Maya just walked calmly, as if she had already seen schools like this 100 times before. She didn't rush, she didn't panic, and she didn't smile. Some kids noticed her immediately. "Who's that?" One boy whispered to his friend near the lockers. "New girl, I guess. Look at her bag, so old. She doesn't even look scared. Weird." The whispers started early that morning, and by lunchtime, almost everyone had seen her face at least once. Maya went through her classes quietly. She sat near the back, answered when teachers asked her questions, and wrote quickly in her notebook. She was smart, that much was clear. But every time someone asked her about herself, where she was from, what her parents did, why she transferred here, she gave short, almost empty answers. "Just moved here. Don't really talk about it. My mom works." That's all. Her classmates found it strange. Why so secretive? At lunch, Maya sat alone at the corner of the cafeteria. She unpacked a small sandwich and water bottle. No snacks, no soda, no expensive meal. She ate calmly, eyes down, as though she didn't care if the world forgot she existed. But in schools like Lincoln High, students who looked too quiet, too different, or too poor always attracted the wrong kind of attention. And it didn't take long. 3 girls, known for their loud voices and cruel jokes, walked past Maya's table. Their names were Amber, Chloe, and Stacy. They were the type of girls who laughed too hard when others cried, loved the sound of their own voices. Amber, the leader, stopped suddenly and turned to look at Maya. "New girl, huh? Why are you sitting alone? Don't you want friends?" Maya looked up, gave a small, polite smile, and shook her head. "I'm fine here, thanks." Chloe leaned closer, pretending to whisper, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "She's fine? Look at her clothes. Probably doesn't even own a phone." The girls laughed, their voices sharp like knives in the quiet cafeteria. Other students pretended not to look, but many eyes watched the scene. Maya didn't react. She just kept eating her sandwich slowly, as if their words didn't matter. That calmness, that silence, it bothered the bullies more than anything. Most kids either cried, begged, or fought back. But this girl, she just ignored them. Amber's face darkened. "You too good to talk to us?" she snapped. Maya looked at her and said quietly, "I just don't want trouble." Those 6 words should have ended it. But to the bullies, it sounded like a challenge. Chloe smirked. "Don't want trouble? Then why come to this school? Trouble finds everyone here." The 3 girls walked away laughing, but their eyes promised something darker. The first day ended without any real fight, but the whispers grew louder. Some students were curious, some were cruel, and some just wanted to know the truth. Who was Maya Johnson, the girl who avoided questions about her family? That night, while other kids posted pictures online and messaged friends, Maya sat at a small wooden desk in her room. She opened her notebook and began writing. Not diary entries, not poems, just lines of thoughts. Stay calm. Don't fight. Don't answer too much. She repeated those words like rules, like they were lessons taught long ago. Then, the sound of a door opening downstairs. Heavy footsteps. Maya closed her notebook quickly. She straightened her back, listening carefully. A woman's voice called, "Maya. Did you finish your homework?" "Yes, Mom," Maya answered. Her mother entered the room. She was tall, sharp-looking, with short hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. She carried herself like someone who had walked through storms and survived. How was the first day? Her mother asked. Maya hesitated. It was. Fine. Her mom narrowed her eyes. She could always tell when Maya was holding back. Any problems? No, Maya said quickly. Just normal. Her mom studied her for a long moment, then gave a small nod. Remember, Maya, no matter what they say, you don't react. You understand? Maya nodded. Yes, Mom. Her mom left the room, but not before locking a drawer in her desk downstairs. Inside that drawer, hidden under papers, lay a badge. A silver badge with 3 letters shining in the dim light. FBI. The next morning, the cycle began again. Students filled the hallways, and whispers spread faster. Did you see the new girl? She's too quiet. Creepy. Maybe her family's in trouble. Amber and her friends were already planning their next move. They didn't like being ignored. They wanted reactions, fear, tears, panic, and they were ready to push until Maya broke. But Maya walked into school the same way as before come. Quiet, almost fearless. Her eyes scanned the hallways as if she had trained herself to notice everything. Every face, every move, every word. She didn't know it yet, but people had started watching her. Not just the bullies. Not just curious students. Teachers, too. One teacher, Mr. Harris, noticed how Maya never flinched. That girl, he whispered to another staff member. She carries herself differently, like she's hiding something. And he was right, because Maya Johnson was not just another new student. She was the daughter of someone powerful, someone dangerous, someone who could bring the entire school to its knees with just one phone call, but no one knew that yet. All they saw, it was a quiet black girl with an old backpack, and eyes that revealed nothing, and the question grew louder in every mind. Why does she avoid talking about her family? The day ended, but the suspense only grew. Everyone at Lincoln High wanted answers, and the bullies, they wanted control. They couldn't stand the mystery. They would keep pushing until they found out the truth. But when the truth came, it would not be what they expected. Because Maya's mother was not just any mother, she was an FBI agent, and the bullies had no idea the storm they were about to unleash. The second day at Lincoln High felt different. Maya Johnson walked into the building, her backpack hanging loosely on one shoulder, her face calm as always. But today, eyes followed her more than before. Whispers trailed behind her wherever she went. She's weird. Why doesn't she talk about her family? Maybe her parents are in jail. Rumors spread fast in school, like fire in dry grass, and Maya, quiet, strong, mysterious, was the perfect target. Amber, Chloe, and Stacy, the 3 bullies, watched her from the corner of the hallway. Their eyes sharp, their smiles cruel. They had spent the whole night texting each other, planning what they called a welcome gift for the new girl. Amber, the leader, crossed her arms. She thinks she's better than us, walking around with that calm face. Today, we'll wipe that smile off. Chloe giggled. Yeah, let's see how long she can stay calm, Stacy added. Bet she cries in front of the whole class. They all laughed. The first period passed quietly. Maya took notes, answered one math question correctly, and stayed focused. Some students noticed she was smart, maybe even too smart, but her quietness still made her a mystery. By second period, the bullies were ready. The hallway was crowded between classes, lockers slamming, students rushing. Maya bent down to pick a book from her bag near her locker. That was the moment Amber gave a small nod. Stacy stepped forward suddenly, bumping into Maya hard. Books and papers scattered across the floor? Oh, I'm so sorry, Stacy said loudly, her fake sympathy drawing attention. Didn't see you there? Students slowed down, watching Maya knelt to gather her things. Her voice calm, she said, It's okay. But Chloe quickly kicked one of the books down the hallway. Oops, did I just do that? She said, grinning. The crowd laughed softly. Some kids looked worried, but no one dared to step in. Everyone knew what happened to those who opposed the bullies. They became targets themselves. Amber crouched down near Maya, whispering in her ear but loud enough for others to hear, "You don't belong here. Why don't you tell us about your family? What are you hiding?" Maya froze for a second. Then she looked at Amber straight in the eyes. Her gaze was steady, cold, almost too strong for someone her age. "I'm not hiding anything," Maya said quietly. "I just don't talk about it." Amber's face tightened. She didn't like that answer. It wasn't fear. It wasn't weakness. It was control. And control was what bullies hated the most. The tension grew as Chloe grabbed Maya's water bottle from her bag. She held it up and said, "Thirsty? Or maybe you can't afford soda like the rest of us." She opened the bottle and poured it slowly across Maya's notebook. The ink running in black rivers across the page. Gasps filled the hallway. Even some of the cruel students thought this was too much. Maya stared at her ruined notes. Her face stayed calm. No tears, no anger, just silence. She slowly picked up her bag and stood, her shoulders straight, her voice steady. "You shouldn't have done that." Amber laughed harshly. "And what are you going to do about it?" Maya didn't answer. She just looked at all three of them, one by one, with the same quiet strength. Then she turned and walked away, leaving the mess on the floor. The bullies laughed louder, but inside, something unsettled them. Why didn't she fight back? Why didn't she cry? That evening, Maya sat at her desk again, rewriting her ruined notes. Her hand moved quickly, but her face was thoughtful. She replayed the moment in the hallway, her calm words, her cruel laughter. She had promised her mom she wouldn't fight back. She remembered her mom's warning clearly. "Stay calm. Don't react. We'll handle it differently." But deep inside, Maya wondered how long she could stay silent. Meanwhile, in another part of town, her mother sat in a dark office with files spread across her desk. The silver badge lay next to her laptop, shining under the desk lamp. Her phone buzzed. A colleague's voice came through. "Agent Johnson, you're still working? You need rest." "I don't rest when my daughter's at a new school," she said firmly. "I have to be ready." "Ready for what?" She didn't answer. Her eyes narrowed as she opened a folder marked "Confidential." Inside, a sheet of paper with names, addresses, and notes. Some of those names were students. Her daughter's bullies had no idea. The next morning at school, whispers were louder. The story of Maya's ruined notebook spread across classrooms. Some kids admired her calmness. Others mocked her more. At lunch, Maya sat alone again, eating quietly. From the far table, Amber and her friends watched. Chloe said, "She doesn't even care. What's wrong with her?" Amber clenched her jaw. "No, she cares. She's just pretending. But we'll make her show it." They began planning their second attack. Something bigger. Something public. And while they planned, a boy named Ethan watched them carefully. Ethan wasn't a bully, but he wasn't exactly brave either. He saw what happened yesterday. And he noticed something no one else did. When the bullies ruined Maya's notebook, she didn't look scared. She didn't look sad. She looked confident. Like she knew something no one else did. Ethan couldn't stop thinking, who is Maya Johnson really? The bell rang, and classes continued. But under the surface, tension was rising. Maya's silence was power, and the bullies wanted to break it. They thought she was alone. They thought she was weak. They thought she was just another new student. But the truth was far from that, because Maya's mother, Agent Johnson, was watching. And soon, very soon, the bullies would learn they had picked the wrong girl. The morning bell rang loudly at Lincoln High. Students rushed into their classrooms. The sound of chairs scraping against the floor, books opening, and voices filling the air in room 204. Where English literature was taught, the energy was different that day. Everyone seemed restless, whispering in low voices, eyes flicking toward the back corner where Maya Johnson sat. She opened her notebook quietly, her pen moving in neat, quick strokes. She was focused, writing down the date, then the title the teacher had written on the board. But she could still feel it eyes on her, whispers crawling like shadows across the room. "Did you hear what happened yesterday?" A girl murmured. They poured water on her notes, and she didn't even cry. She's so strange. The whispers grew, bouncing from desk to desk like a secret too good to keep. Amber sat in the middle row, her arms folded, her chin raised proudly. She loved the attention. Chloe leaned over and whispered to her, "They're all talking about it." "You're a legend now," Amber smirked, her eyes sliding toward Maya. But Maya didn't even glance at her. She was busy underlining a sentence the teacher had just read aloud. That silence, calm, unbothered, powerful, was eating Amber alive. Mr. Harris, the English teacher, noticed the strange energy. He tapped the desk with his ruler. "All right, class. Let's settle down. Today we're reading a story about secrets." The word secrets made several students glance at Maya. She didn't look up, but she heard. She always heard as the class began reading. Amber raised her hand. "Mr. Harris, may I read the first part?" "Of course, Amber," the teacher replied. Amber stood, book in hand, her voice loud and clear as she read. But halfway through the passage, she paused and smiled wickedly. Instead of continuing with the actual words, she said loudly, "Some people keep secrets about their families. Some people hide things because they're ashamed." The whole class froze. Everyone knew she wasn't reading from the book anymore. She was attacking Maya. Maya didn't react. She just kept writing in her notebook, her face calm. Mr. Harris frowned. "Amber, stick to the text, please." Amber shrugged, pretending innocence. "Just thought it was relevant." The class giggled softly. The whispers grew again. What's she hiding? Why doesn't she talk about her dad? Maybe her mom cleans houses. That's why she's so quiet. Each cruel guess cut through the air like tiny knives. But Maya sat still, her pen steady. Ethan, the boy who had noticed her calmness before, sat 2 rows away. He watched her carefully. Something about the way she ignored the whispers seemed unnatural. Not fake, but practiced. Like she had been trained to stay calm no matter what. "Who are you, Maya?" he thought. When class ended, students gathered near the door. Amber and Chloe whispered loudly on purpose. "She's probably homeless. Or maybe her mom's in jail. No wonder she never says anything." Maya walked past them without a word. Her steps were even, her eyes straight ahead. But once she was out of the classroom, she exhaled slowly, as though releasing a weight. She went to her locker, opened it quietly, and slipped her notebook inside. On the first page, under her handwriting, one sentence stood out, written in bold letters. "Stay silent. Stay strong." At lunch, the whispers didn't stop. In fact, they grew louder. Students looked at her as she sat at her usual lonely corner. Some stared with curiosity, some with pity, and some with hidden fear. Why doesn't she ever fight back? She's weird. She's hiding something big. The bullies enjoyed it. Amber loved being the center of gossip. She believed she was in control of Maya's story, but she was wrong. That evening at home, Maya's mother entered her room. She noticed her daughter's tired eyes, though Maya tried to hide them. "Rough day?" her mother asked gently. Maya hesitated. "They talk about me. They keep asking questions." Her mother sat beside her. Her voice calm but firm. "Let them talk. Words cannot break you. Remember who you are, Maya. Remember who I am." Maya looked at her mom's eyes, those strong, unshakable eyes. "I know, Mom." Her mother squeezed her hand. "One day, when the time is right, they will know the truth. Until then, stay silent. Stay strong." The silver badge in the drawer downstairs glimmered faintly in the dark. The next morning at school, the whispers had taken a new form. Now, some students weren't just talking behind her back. They started asking her directly, "Hey Maya, what does your mom do? Why don't you ever invite friends over? Where's your dad?" Maya answered the same way every time. Calm, short, controlled. "My mom works. That's all." But the less she spoke, the more curious they became. Curiosity was fuel for gossip. And gossip was power in the wrong hands. Amber decided the whispers weren't enough anymore. She wanted action. She wanted Maya to break. During history class, When the teacher left the room for a moment, Amber leaned over and whispered loudly, "Maybe her mom's a maid. Or worse, maybe she doesn't even have a mom." The classroom went silent. All eyes turned to Maya. For the first time, she lifted her head slowly. Her eyes locked with Amber's. "Calm, cold, strong. My mom is more powerful than you could ever imagine," she said quietly. The class gasped. Amber blinked, confused, then laughed loudly. "Oh, really? What is she? The president?" Maya didn't answer. She just lowered her head and went back to writing in her notebook. But the silence after her words stayed heavy in the room. Ethan felt a chill. He believed her. He didn't know why, but he did. That night, Amber couldn't stop thinking about Maya's words. More powerful than you could ever imagine. It was supposed to be a joke. But the way Maya had said it, so calm, so sure, it didn't feel like a joke at all, and that unsettled her. The cafeteria at Lincoln High was always noisy at noon. Trays clattered, students laughed, and the smell of pizza and fries filled the air. Groups sat in their usual places at one table, cheerleaders at another, quiet students at the back. And, as always, Maya Johnson sat alone. She placed her simple lunch on the table, a sandwich wrapped in foil. It's an apple and a small bottle of water. No chips, no soda, no cookies. Just enough to eat. She didn't seem to care about the stares or whispers. She just unwrapped her sandwich, ready to eat in silence. But silence was the one thing Maya never got to keep. Amber, Chloe, and Stacy entered the cafeteria together. Their laughter was loud, their steps confident. They moved like they owned the room. Students quickly noticed them. Everyone knew something was about to happen. Amber spotted Maya immediately. Her eyes narrowed. Still sitting alone? She really thinks she's too good for us. Chloe smirked. Let's fix that. They walked over, their heels clicking against the floor. Students nearby went quiet, pretending to eat but really waiting for the show. Amber stopped at Maya's table, her shadow falling over the sandwich. Well, look who's here. The mysterious girl with no friends. Maya looked up, calm as ever. I'm fine here. Chloe leaned closer. Fine? Eating bread and water? What are you, a prisoner? Stacy giggled, snatching Maya's apple. At least let us taste something. Sharing is caring. Maya stayed still, her voice soft, steady. Please give it back. Stacy took a big bite of the apple instead. Oops, too late. The students nearby gasped. A few laughed nervously. Amber crossed her arms. You never talk about your family. Why? Are you embarrassed? What's your mama made? A cleaner? Or maybe she doesn't even have a job. Maya froze for a moment, but then she looked up slowly. Her eyes met Amber's, calm, unshaken. My mom works harder than you'll ever understand, she said quietly. Amber's face turned red. She wasn't expecting that answer. She wanted fear, not confidence, so she decided to push harder. Amber reached out, grabbed Maya's sandwich, and tossed it onto the floor. The bread fell apart, landing in the dirt near the trash can. The cafeteria went silent. Even the students who usually enjoyed watching bullying shifted uncomfortably. Maya stared at her ruined lunch. Her face stayed calm, but her fingers tightened around the water bottle. For a second it looked like she might stand up, but then she remembered her mother's words. Stay calm. Don't react. We'll handle it differently. She took a deep breath and slowly stood. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She just looked at Amber and said softly, You'll regret this. The words were simple, but the way she said them steady. Almost certain sent a strange chill through the room. Amber laughed loudly to cover her unease. Oh yeah, what are you going to do, new girl? Tell your invisible friends? The bullies laughed together, but some students noticed something odd. Maya wasn't angry. She wasn't broken. She was calm. Too calm. Ethan, sitting 2 tables away, couldn't take his eyes off her. Again, she didn't react like normal kids. He whispered to his friend, She's not scared. Why isn't she scared? His friend shrugged nervously. Maybe she's crazy. But Ethan didn't believe that. He was sure Maya's silence meant something else, something big. The rest of lunch passed with whispers floating through the cafeteria. Maya picked up her bag, ignored the ruined food, and walked away without another word. But her calm exit only made the rumors grow stronger. She said they'd regret it. What does that mean? Maybe her family's dangerous. By the end of lunch, half the cafeteria was buzzing with theories. Some thought Maya was bluffing. Some thought she was hiding a dark secret, but no one could ignore her anymore. That evening, Maya sat at her desk again. Her notebook open, her pen moving quickly. She wrote down the words she had spoken. "You'll regret this." She underlined them twice. Her mother entered the room quietly. "How was lunch?" Maya hesitated. "They threw my food on the floor." Her mom's jaw tightened. "And what did you do?" "I said they'll regret it." Her mother studied her daughter's calm face. "Good. You didn't fight back. You kept control." Maya looked at her. "But how long do I have to keep staying quiet?" Her mother sat beside her, resting a hand on her shoulder. "As long as it takes. Words may hurt, but they cannot touch who you are. You're stronger than them. And remember, Maya, when the time comes, they'll know exactly who I am." Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with hidden fire. Downstairs. The silver badge inside the locked drawer seemed to glow in the dark. FBI, the next day at school. Whispers were even louder than before. Students weren't just gossiping. They were watching. Watching Maya, watching the bullies, waiting to see what would happen next. And Amber, Chloe, and Stacy. They were restless. They had expected Maya to cry, to scream, to run. But she didn't. She just stayed calm. That calmness felt like an insult, like a secret weapon they couldn't break. Amber slammed her locker shut that morning and whispered to her friends, "I don't care what it takes. I'm going to break her." But Amber didn't know the truth. She wasn't breaking Maya. She was waking something far more dangerous. The night was quiet in Maya's house. The neighborhood street outside was dark, the only sound coming from distant cars passing by. Inside, Maya sat at her desk, her small lamp glowing softly. She was rewriting her class notes. The ones ruined by water in the cafeteria. Her pen moved quickly across the page, but her mind wasn't on the words. She replayed lunchtime again and again, the laughter, the sandwich on the floor. Amber's cruel smile, and her own words. "You'll regret this." She hadn't shouted them. She hadn't threatened. She had just spoken calmly. Yet even she felt the weight of those words. It was almost as if they weren't just hers. As if the voice of her mother lived inside her, steady and strong. Maya sighed and closed the notebook. She leaned back in her chair, staring at the ceiling. She wished she could tell everyone the truth. She wished she could say who her mother really was. But she couldn't. Her mom's warning echoed in her mind. Stay calm. Don't react. We'll handle it differently. Maya turned off the lamp and crawled into bed. Within minutes, her tired eyes closed. But downstairs, another story was unfolding. Her mother sat alone in the living room. Papers were spread across the table. A laptop screen glowed in the darkness. On the screen were reports, school records, behavior notes, even police complaints from parents about fights at Lincoln High. Agent Johnson, though at school she was just Maya's mom, was working quietly. Her sharp eyes scanned every page, her fingers flipping through files. And then her phone buzzed. She checked the caller ID. It was not a normal number. It was a secure line, known only to her colleagues. She answered in a low voice. "Johnson here," firm voice replied. "We heard about your transfer to Lincoln District. How's the situation?" Her eyes flicked toward the ceiling, toward Maya's quiet room upstairs. "It's manageable, but there are problems. My daughter is being targeted." The voice on the other end was serious. "Do you need backup?" "No," Agent Johnson said firmly. "Not yet. But I'm watching. These girls think they can break her. They have no idea who they're dealing with." She picked up a silver badge from the table. The letters FBI shone under the dim light. She ran her fingers across it slowly, as though reminding herself of the power it held. "I'll handle it," she whispered. Upstairs, Maya stirred in her sleep. She dreamed of the cafeteria again, her sandwich on the floor, Amber laughing. But in her dream, her mom appeared behind her. Holding the shining badge, the dream felt real. Almost like a promise. The next day at school, Maya walked into class as usual. Her backpack looked heavy, but her shoulders were straight. She sat down quietly, pulling out her books around her. The whispers continued. "Did you see her yesterday?" She didn't even cry. She said they'll regret it. The rumors had grown overnight. Some students now believed Maya's family was dangerous. Others thought she was just strange. But everyone agreed on one thing: there was something about her they couldn't explain. Amber. Chloe and Stacy watched her carefully from across the room. Amber leaned toward her friends. "She's not breaking. We need to push harder." Chloe grinned. "Don't worry. I've got an idea." But none of them knew that every cruel word, every plan, was being tracked. Not just by curious students, but by Maya's mother. That afternoon, after school ended, Maya walked home slowly. She carried her books close to her chest, her eyes scanning the sidewalk. She had learned to pay attention, to notice every detail just like her mother taught her. At home, she placed her bag down and walked into the kitchen. "Mom, I'm back." Her mother appeared from the other room, smiling warmly. "How was school?" Maya hesitated. "The same." Her mother studied her face. "Still trouble?" Maya nodded softly. Her mom's eyes hardened for a moment, then softened again. "Don't worry, Maya. Every storm ends. You just have to stand tall until it passes." She hugged her daughter tightly, then said, "I'll be working for a while tonight. Do your homework, then rest." Maya nodded and went upstairs. Hours later, long after Maya had fallen asleep, her mother made another call. This time her voice was sharper. Colder, the voice of an FBI agent, not a mother. "I need everything you have on these students." Amber Lee. Chloe Rivers. Stacy Grant. Background, family records, anything unusual? The agent on the other end hesitated. "They're minors, Johnson." "Are you sure?" "Yes," she said firmly. "They crossed a line. They're targeting my daughter, and I won't let that go." She ended the call and stared at the badge again. Her reflection shone in the silver. "They think she's weak," she whispered, "but they don't know she's mine." The next morning, Maya woke up early. She dressed, tied her shoes, and stood in front of the mirror. She looked at her own eyes for a long time. "You'll regret this," she whispered again. At school, the bullies were waiting. Their eyes glinted with cruel excitement, ready for another game. But something about Maya felt different that day. Her steps were steady. Her gaze was calm. Her silence was louder than ever, and somewhere deep inside, Amber felt it, the unease. The strange sense that Maya was not as alone as she looked. The morning bell rang at Lincoln High. Echoing through the hallways, students rushed to their lockers, talking loudly, laughing, and sharing weekend plans. But not everyone was laughing. Amber, Chloe, and Stacy leaned near their lockers, whispering like they always did. But today, Amber's smile was not as bright. Something about Maya's words at lunch 2 days ago, "I'll regret this," stuck in her mind. She told herself it was nothing. Just a weak threat from a quiet girl. But deep down, she felt something strange. Something that made her restless. Still, Amber wasn't the kind of person to admit fear. She smirked and flipped her hair. "Let's see what she does today. I'm not done with her." Chloe laughed, pretending not to notice Amber's unease. "We'll break her sooner or later." But Stacy was quieter than usual. "I don't know, guys. Didn't you notice? She didn't even cry. She didn't even shout. It's like she wasn't scared at all." Amber rolled her eyes. "She's faking it. Trust me." But Stacy wasn't so sure. Inside the classroom, Maya sat at her desk, writing in her notebook. As always, she was calm and quiet. Some students avoided her now, afraid of her mysterious silence. Others stared curiously, whispering behind their hands. Ethan, sitting nearby, kept stealing glances at her. He remembered the cafeteria too. He remembered her voice, steady, calm, almost powerful. He leaned toward his friend. "She's not normal. Something's going on with her." His friend shrugged. "Maybe she's hiding something," yes, Ethan whispered. But what? That afternoon, the cafeteria was tense again. Students waited, curious if another fight would happen. Amber, Chloe, and Stacy walked in together.
Acting confident.
They passed by Maya's table and saw her eating another simple lunch. No soda, no fries, no dessert. Just bread and fruit, Amber smirked. "Still eating like a bird, Maya? Don't you get tired of this sad meal?" Maya didn't look up. She just kept eating quietly. Chloe leaned closer. "Why don't you ever fight back? Afraid you'll lose?" Still no answer. Finally, Amber slammed her hand on the table, making Maya's water bottle tip over. The water spilled across the tray, soaking the sandwich. Gasps filled the cafeteria. But again, Maya didn't flinch. She calmly picked up the bottle, set it upright, and wiped the table with a napkin. Then she looked straight at Amber. Her voice was soft, but her words cut through the noise. "Do you ever wonder what happens when someone finally stands up to you?" Amber blinked. For a second, she froze. Something in Maya's eyes made her chest tighten. She quickly laughed it off, but her hands trembled slightly. The bullies walked away, pretending to be confident. But everyone in the cafeteria saw that Amber was rattled. That night, Amber couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, her mind replaying Maya's words. "Do you ever wonder what happens when someone finally stands up to you?" She tried to brush it off, but unease spread through her like a shadow at that same moment. Across town, Agent Johnson sat in her car outside a small building. She wasn't in her usual motherly clothes. She wore a dark jacket, her hair tied back. Her sharp eyes scanned the windows, the door, the people going in and out. She wasn't just a mother tonight. She was an FBI agent on duty. Her phone buzzed. A colleague's voice spoke. "Background checks complete. The girls Umber Lee, Chloe Rivers, Stacy Grant. Families all clean. No criminal ties. Just spoiled teenagers." Agent Johnson narrowed her eyes. "Spoiled teenagers can still do damage," the voice replied. "What do you want us to do?" She looked out the windshield, her face hard. "For now? But keep the file open. I want every detail, every move." She hung up and sighed. She hated this double life-loving mother at home, federal agent at night. But she had no choice. Maya had to be protected. The next day, warning signs appeared. Amber was at her locker when she found something strange. A note slipped between her books. No name, no handwriting she recognized. Just 3 words, written in black ink. "Watch your back." Her hands shook slightly as she read it. She looked around quickly, but no one was watching. She crumpled the note and stuffed it in her bag, telling herself it was a prank. But deep inside, fear twisted tighter. Later, Chloe opened her locker and found something too. Her mirror had a crack running through it, though it wasn't broken the day before. Right on the crack, someone had written with a black marker, "The truth is coming." Chloe frowned, suddenly uneasy. "Who did this?" she muttered. Meanwhile, Stacy sat in class, doodling on her notebook. When she flipped the page, her stomach dropped. Someone had written across it in bold letters, "Regret starts now." She gasped quietly, her eyes darting around the room. No one looked at her, but she felt as if invisible eyes were watching. By the end of the day, all 3 bullies were shaken. They didn't tell each other about the strange warnings. They were too proud, too afraid of looking weak, but each of them felt it. The warning signs, the fear, and at the center of it all was Maya. Still calm, still quiet, still untouchable. That evening, as Maya did her homework, she noticed her mother on the phone again. Her mother's voice was low, serious. "Yes, I received the update." "Good. Keep monitoring. We'll move if things escalate." When she noticed Maya watching, she quickly ended the call and smiled. "How's your homework?" Maya studied her mother's face. "Mom, are you hiding something from me?" Her mom paused. For a moment, her eyes softened with guilt. Then she shook her head gently. I'm just making sure you're safe, sweetheart. Maya didn't ask more, but inside she knew. Her mother was involved in something bigger. Something she couldn't yet understand. That night, Maya lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She thought of Amber's cruel laughter, Chloe's smirk, Stacy's nervous giggle. And then she thought of the strange warnings that seemed to follow them. She didn't know where they came from. She didn't know why they happened. But deep down, she felt that this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning, and when the truth finally came out, nothing at Lincoln High would ever be the same. The week dragged on at Lincoln High, but something had changed. The cafeteria was no longer filled with laughter when the bullies walked in. Students still stared at Amber, Chloe, and Stacy. But now the stares were different. Curious, nervous, almost suspicious. The warning signs had spread through whispers. Someone had seen the note Amber threw away. Someone had told a friend about Chloe's broken mirror. Soon, half the school believed a mystery was haunting the bullies. Some said Maya was behind it. Others swore it was a ghost or a secret gang. No one knew for sure. But Amber knew one thing: she was losing control. That Friday after school, Amber called Chloe and Stacy to meet at her house. They gathered in Amber's big living room, sitting on the white leather sofa. The curtains were closed. The air felt heavy. Amber paced the floor. Okay, enough is enough. Something is going on. Someone is messing with us. Chloe crossed her arms, pretending to stay calm. It's just pranks. Don't overthink it. Stacy shook her head. Pranks, Chloe? This isn't funny anymore. I found writing in my notebook. I didn't put it there. Did either of you? Both Amber and Chloe shook their heads quickly. See? Stacy said, her voice trembling. It's not a prank. It's a warning. Amber stopped pacing and glared at her. Stop being dramatic. No one scares me. If Maya thinks she can, she's wrong. Chloe leaned back on the sofa. But what if it's not Maya? What if it's someone else? The room went silent. For the first time. Amber didn't have a quick answer. Meanwhile, Maya sat at her desk at home, working on her homework. Her notebook was open, but she wasn't focused. She could almost feel the tension in the air, even from miles away. She knew the bullies were restless. Her mom entered the room quietly, carrying 2 mugs of hot chocolate. She placed one beside Maya and sat on the edge of the bed. You've been quiet, her mother said softly. I'm always quiet, Maya replied with a small smile. Her mom smiled too, but then her face grew serious. Listen, Maya. Sometimes people push others because they think no one is watching. But they don't know the truth. Someone is always watching. Maya tilted her head. You. Her mom hesitated, then nodded. Yes, and others too. Maya frowned. What do you mean, others? Her mom stood, brushing her daughter's hair gently. You'll know when the time is right. That night, after Maya fell asleep, her mother made another call. This is Johnson, she said firmly. A voice on the other end replied, We've been monitoring. The girls are showing signs of fear. The pressure is working, Good Agent Johnson said. But don't push too far yet. I don't want Maya in danger. Just keep them off balance. I'll meet with you tomorrow night, the voice agreed, and the call ended. The next day, Saturday evening, Agent Johnson drove out of the neighborhood. Maya thought her mom was going shopping, but in reality, she drove to an old warehouse near the edge of town. Inside, a small group of people waited. Men and women in plain clothes, but with sharp eyes. FBI agents. The warehouse was quiet, except for the echo of footsteps. Johnson, one of them, greeted. We've gathered everything. The school has a bullying problem bigger than just these 3 girls. We think there's more going on. She raised an eyebrow. More. The agent slid a folder across the table. Yes, there have been reports of fights, threats, even dangerous stunts. Parents complained, but nothing was done. It seems the school's administration ignored it. Agent Johnson opened the folder. Her eyes narrowed at the list of names. More bullies. More victims. More ignored cries for help. So it's not just my daughter, she muttered. No, the agent replied. But she may be the key. When those girls attacked her, they didn't realize they picked the wrong target. Now everyone's watching. Agent Johnson leaned back, thinking, then it's time we make this bigger. Keep watching the girls. I'll handle the rest." The meeting ended quietly, but one thing was clear. The FBI was now involved in Lincoln High's secrets. Meanwhile, Amber couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, clutching her phone. Every creak in the house made her jump. Every shadow in the room made her heart race. Finally, she sat up and grabbed her phone. She texted Chloe, "Amber, what if Maya's mom is involved?" "Chloe, what do you mean?" "Amber, she's too calm. She never reacts." "What if her mom told her to act that way?" "Chloe, so she's just a teacher or something." "Amber, no, I don't think so. I've seen the way her mom looks at people, like she's not scared of anyone." Chloe didn't reply right away. She didn't want to admit it, but she had noticed it too. On Sunday morning, Amber finally spoke to her father about the strange notes. She told him she was being harassed at school. Her father frowned. "Do you know who's doing it?" Amber hesitated. "I think it's Maya." Her father's jaw tightened. "Then we'll deal with her." "Don't worry, sweetheart. I'll talk to the principal tomorrow." Amber smiled weakly, relieved. But deep inside, she wondered if even her father could stop what was coming. Back at Maya's home, she sat at the kitchen table, sketching in her notebook. She wasn't drawing flowers or stars. She was sketching eyes watching eyes, surrounding eyes, dozens of them. Her mom glanced at the page and smiled knowingly. "You see things, don't you?" Maya shrugged. I feel like people are watching me." Her mom leaned down and whispered, "Maybe that's not a bad thing." Maya looked at her, confused. But before she could ask, her mom changed the subject. That evening, Amber, Chloe, and Stacy met again in Amber's room. Amber closed the door and whispered, "I think we need to stop messing with her." "Something isn't right." Chloe frowned. "What are you saying? We just quit?" "Yes," Amber said firmly. "We leave her alone. Starting now." Stacy nodded quickly. "I agree. This is too weird." Chloe leaned back and smirked. "You're both scared. Look at you. Maya's not magic. She's not special. She's just a girl. And I'm not about to let some quiet new kid make me look weak." Amber clenched her fists. "Chloe," but before she could finish, the bedroom window rattled suddenly. All three girls gasped and turned. Outside, the night was still. No wind, no tree branches. Yet the glass shook again. Amber's heart pounded. Stacy covered her mouth. Chloe's smirk faded. The rattling stopped as suddenly as it started. The three girls stared at each other, their faces pale. None of them spoke. For the first time, even Chloe didn't have a clever reply. Monday morning at Lincoln High began like every other day, but the atmosphere felt heavier. Rumors had spread over the weekend. Students whispered about the bullies, about Maya, about strange warnings. Some swore they saw Amber looking pale in the hallways. Others said Chloe hadn't been laughing as loudly as usual. Stacy seemed quieter, her eyes darting around nervously. And Maya? She walked calmly through the halls, her books in her arms, her steps steady as always. She didn't look scared. She didn't look angry. She just moved like someone who already knew the ending of a story no one else could see. But that morning, a different kind of storm was waiting in the principal's office. Amber's father, Mr. Lee, sat in the large chair across from Principal Harris. He was tall, serious-looking, dressed in a sharp suit. His face was hard with anger. Amber sat beside him, arms crossed, staring at the floor. Principal Harris adjusted his glasses nervously. "Mr. Lee, I understand your concerns, but—" "No, Principal Harris," Mr. Lee interrupted. "This isn't just concern. This is about my daughter's safety. She's been receiving threats at this school." "Threats?" Amber stayed quiet. She didn't tell him the whole story, didn't mention that she and her friends had started the trouble. She only told him about the strange notes, the cracked mirror, the feeling of being watched. Principal Harris sighed. "Do you have any proof these threats are coming from Maya Johnson?" Amber's father leaned forward. "Who else could it be? Ever since she arrived, things have changed. My daughter never had problems before. Now suddenly, she and her friends are targeted. That girl is trouble. Amber glanced up. A flicker of guilt crossed her face, but she quickly looked down again. Principal Harris frowned. Mr. Lee, Maya has no record of causing problems. She has good grades. Teachers describe her as polite and quiet. Quiet, Mr. Lee scoffed. That's how dangerous people hide. Quiet until it's too late. The principal opened his mouth to respond, but just then, the door opened and Maya's mother stepped in. Agent Johnson, though here she was, just Mrs. Johnson, walked into the office calmly. She wore a simple blazer, her hair tied neatly. Her eyes were sharp, but her smile was polite. "Excuse me?" she said softly. "I was asked to come." Principal Harris looked relieved. "Yes, Mrs. Johnson. Please have a seat." Amber stiffened when she saw Maya's mother. Something about her presence felt different. To calm. Too powerful, Mrs. Johnson sat down across from Mr. Lee, folding her hands on the desk. Her smile never faded. Principal Harris cleared his throat. "We're discussing some concerns about student behavior. Mr. Lee believes your daughter may be connected." Mrs. Johnson's eyes flicked toward Amber, then back to the principal. Her voice stayed soft. "Connected to what exactly?" Mr. Lee leaned forward. "My daughter has been threatened. Notes, messages, warnings. This started when your daughter arrived." Mrs. Johnson tilted her head slightly, still calm. "And you have evidence that Maya wrote these notes?" Mr. Lee faltered. "Well, no, but who else could it be?" Mrs. Johnson's calm smile hardened just slightly. Her eyes locked on his. "Then perhaps we should not accuse without proof. Don't you agree?" The room went silent. Principal Harris shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Even Amber lowered her eyes. Finally, Mrs. Johnson spoke again, her tone still polite but sharper than before. "My daughter has been the target of bullying since she arrived. Students mocking her, throwing away her food, spreading rumors. And yet, she has not raised her hand against anyone. She has not shouted. She has not threatened." Amber's eyes widened. How did Maya's mom know about the cafeteria? Had Maya told her? Or had she seen it? Mrs. Johnson continued, "If there are threats, then yes, they should be investigated. But let us investigate fairly. Blaming Maya without proof is unfair and unsafe." Mr. Lee's jaw tightened. He didn't like being challenged. But something in Mrs. Johnson's voice made him hesitate. She spoke like someone who wasn't afraid of him or anyone. Finally, Principal Harris raised his hands. "All right, enough. I will personally look into this. Both students deserve safety. Until then, no more accusations." Mr. Lee muttered under his breath, but leaned back. Mrs. Johnson simply nodded politely. After the meeting, Amber walked out with her father. She glanced back once at Mrs. Johnson, and in that brief moment, Mrs. Johnson's eyes met hers, calm, cold. Knowing, Amber quickly looked away, her heart pounding. Back in the car, Mr. Lee was still angry. That woman is too confident. She's hiding something. I don't trust her. Amber bit her lip. She wanted to tell him everything, that she and her friends had bullied Maya first, that maybe this was their fault. But she stayed silent, because deep down, she was more afraid of Maya's mother than of her own father. Meanwhile, Mrs. Johnson returned home. Maya was waiting at the table, pretending to do homework, but clearly curious. "How was school?" Maya asked carefully. Mrs. Johnson smiled. "School was fine. The principal wanted to talk. About me." Maya asked softly. "Yes," her mom admitted. "But don't worry. You did nothing wrong." Maya hesitated. "Mom, people are scared of me. But I'm not doing anything." "Why are they so scared?" Her mother placed a gentle hand on hers. "Because, Maya, people fear what they don't understand. And you are stronger than they know." Maya searched her mother's eyes. "Stronger? Because of you?" Her mother didn't answer. She only smiled, but her silence spoke louder than words. That night, Maya lay in bed, staring at the ceiling again. She remembered Amber's pale face in the cafeteria. She remembered the whispers. And she remembered the way her mother had stared down Mr. Lee in the office. Her mom wasn't just a normal mom. She was something more, and Maya was beginning to understand, but she also knew this wasn't over. The meeting at the principal's office was only the beginning, because the bullies wouldn't stop, and when they pushed too far, the truth would finally explode. The week after the meeting in the principal's office was tense. Students whispered in hallways. Teachers gave cautious glances toward Maya and the bullies Amber. Chloe and Stacy seemed less confident than before. Amber walked through school with her arms crossed, her head down. She hated the way people looked at her now. Some kids thought she was weak. Others thought she was scared of Maya. She couldn't stand it. Her father had warned her that Maya's mother was dangerous. He didn't say how, but the way he spoke made Amber believe it. Still, Amber couldn't let this go. She couldn't just walk away. So one afternoon, she called Chloe and Stacy into the girls' bathroom. "Listen," Amber whispered, locking the door behind them. "We have to end this. If we let Maya win, everyone will think we're scared of her." Chloe frowned. "But we are scared. Ever since those notes, those warnings, it feels like she knows everything we do." Stacy nodded. "What if her mom really is something big? Did you see the way she looked at your dad in the office? That was scary." Amber slammed her hand on the sink. "Stop it. Maya's just a girl. A weird girl, yes, but still just a girl. She's not special. She's not stronger than us. We just have to prove it." The others stayed quiet. Amber lowered her voice. "So here's the plan. We set her up. We make her look guilty. Then everyone will believe us." Chloe's eyes widened. "Set her up how?" Amber smirked. "Leave that to me." That night, Amber sat at her desk writing. She pulled out a notebook and scribbled down cruel words, pretending to copy someone else's handwriting. She wrote threats. She wrote warnings. She wrote Maya's name at the bottom. When she finished, she stared at the page. It looked convincing. Anyone who read it would think Maya had written it. Amber's heart beat faster. She was nervous, but she also felt powerful again. Finally, she had control. The next morning, Amber slipped the fake note into Chloe's locker, another into Stacy's, and one into her own backpack, to discover later at lunch. Chloe pulled out her note, her hands shaking. It happened again, she whispered loudly enough for nearby students to hear. "Maya threatened me." Students turned their heads. Whispers spread quickly. Stacy pulled out her note, pretending to be terrified. "Me too." Amber waited a few moments before pulling out hers. She stood up in the middle of the cafeteria. "Everyone look. Maya's threatening us. She's dangerous." The cafeteria went silent. Dozens of eyes turned to Maya. Maya sat at the far end of the table, quietly eating her sandwich. She froze when she felt all the eyes on her. Slowly, she looked up. Amber marched toward her, waving the note in her hand. "You think you can scare us with your threats? Everyone knows it's you." Maya looked at the paper, but didn't touch it. Her eyes met Amber's, calm, unshaken. "I didn't write that," Maya said softly. "Oh, really?" Amber snapped. "Then why does your name say right here at the bottom?" She shoved the note toward the crowd. Students leaned in to see. Sure enough, it looked like Maya had signed it. Gasps spread through the cafeteria. Some kids whispered, "She's dangerous." Others said, "I knew it." Maya felt her stomach twist. She wanted to defend herself, but her voice felt small compared to Amber's. Then suddenly a teacher walked in. "Enough." Mr. Thompson's voice boomed. He grabbed the note from Amber's hand. "Principal's office. Now, all of you." Amber smirked. This was exactly what she wanted. Maya was being dragged into trouble. In the principal's office, the three bullies told their story. They spoke dramatically, pretending to be scared. They showed the notes. Principal Harris frowned deeply. He looked tired, stressed. He tapped the papers on his desk. "Maya, do you deny writing these?" "Yes," Maya said firmly, though her voice trembled. "I didn't write them." Amber crossed her arms. "She's lying." Chloe nodded quickly. "She's been creepy since she got here," Stacy added. "She always stares like she's planning something." The principal rubbed his temples. Maya, handwriting experts can tell if these belong to you. Do you understand the seriousness of this? Maya swallowed hard. She nodded. But inside, she felt crushed. How could she prove her innocence? Just then, the office door opened, and once again Maya's mother walked in. Her presence filled the room. Calm, strong, unreadable. She closed the door behind her and stood straight. Is there a problem with my daughter? She asked gently. Principal Harris looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Johnson, we're reviewing some troubling notes. The other students claim Maya wrote them. Mrs. Johnson extended her hand. May I see them? Reluctantly, Principal Harris passed the papers to her. She read each one carefully, her eyes scanning every detail. Then she looked up. Her voice was cool, but firm. This is not my daughter's handwriting. Amber shifted uncomfortably. Chloe and Stacy glanced at each other nervously. Mrs. Johnson set the papers down. If you would like, I can prove it. Principal Harris raised his eyebrows. Prove it? Yes, Mrs. Johnson replied simply. I have training in forgery detection. These notes were written by someone else. Amber's face went pale. The principal blinked. Training? Mrs. Johnson, how exactly do you? Mrs. Johnson smiled faintly. Let's just say I've worked in places where detecting lies was part of the job. Her eyes flicked to Amber, and I can tell you now this is a lie. The office went silent. Chloe and Stacy shifted in their chairs. Amber clenched her fists, trying not to shake. Principal Harris cleared his throat. I'll need to look into this further. Yes, Mrs. Johnson said calmly. You should. Afterward, as the students left, Amber felt her stomach knotting. She thought the setup would work. She thought Maya would finally be the one in trouble. But instead, Maya's mother had turned. Everything around again, without even raising her voice. Chloe whispered as they walked down the hall. Amber, what if her mom really is FBI or something? Amber snapped. Shut up. She's not. She can't be. She's just a mom. But her words sounded hollow. Because deep down, Amber wasn't so sure anymore. That night, Amber sat on her bed, staring at the fake notes. She thought about burning them. She thought about confessing. But then she shook her head. No. She couldn't give up. She wouldn't let Maya win. But as she turned off the light, she couldn't shake one thought from her mind. Why did it feel like Maya's mother already knew everything before it even happened? The tension at Lincoln High grew heavier with each passing day. The air felt charged, like a storm was waiting to break. Everyone could sense something was wrong, but no one dared to speak it aloud. The bullies Amber, Chloe, and Stacy tried to act normal. They laughed loudly in the hallways, tossed their hair, and rolled their eyes at teachers. But their laughter sounded forced. Their smiles didn't reach their eyes, because every time they saw Maya, they remembered the look on her mother's face in the principal's office. Calm, controlled, but powerful. Like she held a secret no one else could touch, and that secret was starting to feel like a shadow, following them everywhere. That Friday evening, Amber stayed late at school. She told her father she had cheerleading practice, but in truth, she just needed some time alone. She didn't want to hear Chloe's nervous whispers or Stacy's complaints. She wanted to think. The sun had already set when she left the locker room. The hallways were dim and quiet, the kind of silence that made her footsteps echo. She hugged her bag tightly, walking faster. That's when she noticed it. A single envelope taped to her locker. Amber froze. Her chest tightened. Slowly, she reached out and peeled it off. The paper was plain. Her name was written across the front in bold black letters. Hand shaking, she tore it open. Inside was a note. Just one sentence. You are being watched. Amber's blood ran cold. Her eyes darted around the hallway, empty, silent. But it didn't feel empty. It felt like someone was there, hiding in the shadows. She shoved the note into her bag and ran the next day. Chloe received a message slipped into her math book. She didn't see who placed it there. It read, "Stop before it's too late." Her hands trembled. She dropped the book on the floor. Other students laughed, thinking she was just clumsy. But Chloe knew. It wasn't clumsiness. It was fear. Stacy got hers on Sunday. She opened her front door and found a plain envelope on the doormat. No stamp, no address. Someone had delivered it by hand. Inside, secrets don't stay hidden. Stacy nearly screamed. She ran back inside, locking the door. Her parents asked what was wrong, but she just shook her head, too scared to explain. By Monday, all three girls were pale, nervous, and paranoid. They huddled together at lunch, whispering. "This has to stop," Chloe said, her voice shaking. "It's Maya. It has to be her. She's behind this." Stacy nodded quickly. "But how?" "She never leaves class. She's always so..." Normal Amber slammed her tray down. "It's not her. It's her mom. I know it." The others stared at her. Amber leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Think about it. Maya's mom always shows up at the right time. She knows things before anyone tells her. She stopped my dad. She stopped the principal. She stopped everything. She's controlling this," Chloe whispered. "But who even is she?" Amber's eyes narrowed. "That's what we're going to find out." That afternoon, the bullies skipped practice. Instead, they followed Maya. They trailed her at a distance as she walked home, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders. Maya didn't notice them more, maybe she did, but chose not to react. She turned onto a quiet street lined with tall trees. Amber and her friends ducked behind a hedge, watching as Maya walked up the path to a small brick house. She unlocked the door and went inside. The girls crouched low, whispering, "That's her house," Stacy asked. "It looks normal," Chloe muttered. Amber's eyes stayed fixed on the windows. "It's not normal. Nothing about them is normal." Just then, one of the curtains shifted. A shadow moved behind the glass. The girls froze. The shadow was tall, too tall to be Maya. Then the curtain dropped back into place. Amber's heart pounded. "That's her mom," the others shivered. Before they could move, the front door of the house creaked open. Mrs. Johnson stepped outside. She didn't shout. She didn't run after them. She just stood on the porch, calm and still. Her eyes scanned the street like she already knew they were hiding. Amber, Chloe, and Stacy ducked lower. Their hearts hammered in their chests. Mrs. Johnson didn't say a word. She didn't even look directly at them. She just folded her arms and waited, like a hunter giving prey the chance to run. Finally, she turned and walked back inside, closing the door gently. The silence that followed was worse than shouting. The girls scrambled to their feet and ran all the way back to Amber's house, too terrified to speak until they slammed the door shut behind them. Later that night, Amber tossed and turned in her bed. Every sound made her flinch. Every shadow looked like someone standing in the corner. She pulled out the note again. "You are being watched." Her chest tightened. What if it wasn't just a warning? What if it was true? She thought about Maya. Quiet, smart, always calm. She thought about Mrs. Johnson, who never lost control, who always knew the right words, and for the first time, Amber felt something she had never felt before. Not just fear, but regret. The next morning, Amber dragged herself to school. Her eyes were tired, her face pale. She walked into the cafeteria and saw Maya sitting alone reading a book. For a brief moment, Amber wanted to walk over. She wanted to apologize. She wanted to admit everything. But then Chloe and Stacy walked in, and Amber's pride snapped back into place. She couldn't back down now, not in front of them. So instead, she glared at Maya across the room. Maya didn't look up. She just kept reading, like she knew everything already, and maybe she did. That evening, Amber came home to find her father waiting for her in the living room. His face was stern. "Amber," he said, holding up an envelope. "This was in our mailbox." Amber's stomach dropped. She already knew what was inside. Her father opened it. Inside was a single line. "Protect your daughter before she learns the hard way." Amber's knees nearly gave out. Her father's face darkened. "Do you know who's doing this?" Amber shook her head quickly. "No, I don't." but inside she knew exactly who. That night, Amber dreamed of shadows moving in her room, of cold eyes watching from the dark. She woke up sweating, gasping for air, and on her nightstand, where she hadn't placed it, was the same note her father had shown her. "Protect your daughter before she learns the hard way." Amber screamed. Her parents rushed in. But when they turned on the lights, the note was gone. The warnings didn't stop. By Tuesday morning, the entire school buzzed with whispers. Students passed rumors like wildfire. Some claimed Maya had powers. Others said her mother worked for the government. A few even swore they saw black cars following Amber's father. But Maya stayed calm. She walked through the hallways like she didn't hear the whispers at all. She carried her books, answered questions in class, and ate her lunch in silence. It was Amber who looked broken. Her once bold posture had wilted. Her cheerleader smile was gone. Her eyes carried dark circles from sleepless nights. Chloe leaned close to her at lunch. "Amber, you look terrible." "What's wrong?" Amber glanced around nervously, then whispered, "It's her mom. I'm telling you. She's not normal." Stacy crossed her arms. "We know that already. But what do we do?" Amber hesitated. Her voice shook when she spoke. "We find out the truth." That evening, Amber lied to her parents again. She told them she was sleeping over at Chloe's house. In reality, the three bullies met outside Maya's street. It was dark. The wind rustled through the trees. The Johnson house stood at the end of the block, its windows glowing faintly with warm light. Amber whispered, "This is it. Tonight, we'll find out." Chloe trembled. "Amber, are you sure? What if? What if she catches us?" "She won't," Amber snapped, though her voice wavered. "We'll just look. Nothing else." The girls crept closer, their footsteps silent on the grass. They crouched near a window at the side of the house. Carefully, Amber peeked in. Inside, Maya sat at the kitchen table, reading. Her mother stood at the counter, speaking quietly on the phone. Amber pressed her ear closer to the glass. Mrs. Johnson's voice was calm, steady. "Yes, I've confirmed it. The children tried again today. They're frightened now." No, I haven't revealed myself yet. Orders are clear. Stay in cover until further notice." Amber's breath caught in her throat. "Orders. Stay in cover. Who talks like that?" She strained harder to listen. "Yes," Mrs. Johnson continued. "If they push her further, I'll step in. But for now, let's watch. We don't want to expose the operation too early." Amber's heart hammered. Operation Cover. This wasn't normal at all. She pulled back quickly, her face pale. Chloe whispered, "What did she say?" Amber swallowed hard. She's working for someone. She's hiding. This is big." Stacy's voice cracked. Like the FBI." Amber's eyes were wide. "Yes, or bigger." Suddenly, the back door creaked open. The girls froze. Mrs. Johnson stepped outside, holding a trash bag. She walked calmly to the bin at the side of the house. Her steps were slow, deliberate. Amber held her breath. But then Mrs. Johnson stopped. She didn't look at them. But her head tilted slightly as if she knew. She dropped the bag into the bin, turned, and went back inside without a word. The girls didn't wait. They scrambled away from the house, running until their lungs burned. Later, in Amber's bedroom, the three sat in silence. Chloe finally spoke. "Amber, this is too much. She's dangerous. We should stop before something bad happens." Stacy nodded quickly. "Yeah, let's just leave Maya alone, please." Amber shook her head. Her voice was low, but determined. "No, don't you see? This is bigger than us. We can't just stop. If we do, she wins, and no one will ever know the truth." Chloe's eyes filled with tears. "Amber, I don't care if she wins. I just want this to end." Amber clenched her fists. "It won't end. Not until we expose her." The next day at school, Amber kept her eyes on Maya. She watched her every move, every word. And the more she watched, the more she realized something. Maya wasn't scared. Not of them. Not of anyone. And maybe that was the scariest part. That evening, Amber's father came into her room holding his phone. "Amber," he said sharply. I looked into Maya's mother. "Do you know who she really is?" Amber's head snapped up. "You found something." Her father nodded grimly. "She's not listed on any social media. No Facebook, no Instagram, nothing. That's unusual. And her employment records? Sealed." Amber's chest tightened. "Sealed." "Yes," her father said. "Only government employees with high clearance have sealed records. The kind of people who don't want to be found," Amber whispered. "So, she is FBI?" Her father frowned. "Or worse. I don't know. But stay away from her, Amber. Do you understand? Stay away." Amber nodded slowly. But deep inside, she knew she couldn't stay away. She needed to know everything. The following night, Amber made her boldest move yet. She sneaked out of her house after midnight and crept back to the Johnsons'. The street was silent. The Johnsons' windows were dark. Amber crouched near the front porch, her heart pounding. She noticed something she hadn't before. Black car parked across the street. The windows were tinted, the engine silent. Her breath caught. Was it watching the Johnsons or her? She crept closer to the car. For a moment, she thought it was empty. But then the driver's window rolled down. A man in a dark suit and earpiece looked at her. His face was blank, his eyes cold. "You shouldn't be here," he said flatly. Amber's heart nearly stopped. Who are you?" The man didn't answer. He just rolled the window back up and stared forward. Amber stumbled backward and ran all the way home. The next morning, she could barely breathe from nerves. She saw Maya in the hallway. But this time, she didn't glare. She didn't smirk. She only stared, wide-eyed. At the girl who seemed to carry a secret bigger than the whole school. Maya looked back at her calmly. Then she whispered, just loud enough for Amber to hear, "You don't have to be scared." "Not of me?" Amber froze. How did she know? That night, Amber lay awake in bed. The warnings, the notes, the shadow in the car, Maya's calm voice, it all swirled in her head. Finally, she admitted it to herself. Maya wasn't the real danger. Her mother was, and soon. The whole world would know. Amber couldn't sleep anymore. Her nights were filled with shadows, with whispers, with the cold face of the man in the black car. Her days were filled with fear, her heart racing every time she saw Maya or her mother. But there was something stronger than her fear. Her pride. She couldn't accept defeat. Not after everything. Not after the whole school started whispering that Maya had silenced her. So she came up with one last plan. A trap. On Wednesday, Amber pulled Chloe and Stacy aside in the locker room. "We're going to expose her," Amber said firmly. Chloe groaned. "Amber, please. I'm done. I'm not sleeping. I'm jumping at shadows. I can't know." Amber snapped, her eyes wild. "Don't you get it? If we stop now, everyone will think we're cowards. Worse, they'll think Maya beat us." Stacy bit her lip. "But how? We've tried everything. Notes, lies, nothing works. She's always ahead." Amber leaned in, lowering her voice. "Then we change the game. We make her mom show her true colors. In front of everyone." Chloe frowned. "Her mom? Are you crazy?" Amber's eyes gleamed. "No, listen. If she really is FBI, or whatever she is, then she's hiding it. She doesn't want anyone to know. So we'll push her until she's forced to reveal herself. And when she does, everyone will see." Chloe and Stacy exchanged nervous glances. But Amber's fire was strong enough to pull them along. The plan was simple. During the school assembly on Friday, Amber would stage an attack. She and her friends would corner Maya in the gym when no one else was watching. They'd scare her, threaten her, push until her mother intervened. And when that happened, the truth would finally come out. At least that was what Amber believed. Friday came. The whole school gathered in the gym for the assembly. Teachers lined the walls. Principal Harris stood at the front, preparing his long speech. Students sat in rows on the bleachers, whispering and laughing. Maya sat quietly in the second row, her notebook on her lap. She looked calm, almost too calm, like she already knew what was coming. Amber's stomach twisted. She hated that calmness. She wanted to shatter it. She leaned toward Chloe and Stacy. Now, while everyone's distracted, the three slipped away from the bleachers, moving around to the side hallway. They waited until the principal's voice echoed through the gym. Everyone's attention fixed on the stage. Then they grabbed Maya. Chloe yanked the notebook from her hands. Stacy blocked the exit. Amber shoved Maya against the wall. "You think you're better than us, don't you?" Amber hissed. "You think you can scare us with your creepy mom and your stupid notes?" Maya didn't fight back. She just looked at them with steady eyes. "I didn't write those notes," she said softly. Amber's anger flared. "Liar." She shoved Maya harder. "You're going to admit it. Right here. Right now." Maya's voice didn't rise. "Why do you need me to admit something that isn't true?" Amber's hands trembled. Why wasn't she scared? Why wasn't she crying? "Because you're nothing," Amber spat. "And I'm going to prove it." At that moment, the gym doors opened. Mrs. Johnson stepped inside. Her eyes scanned the scene. Instantly, Amber's hands on Maya's shoulders. Chloe holding the notebook, Stacy blocking the way. The air seemed to freeze. Mrs. Johnson didn't shout. She didn't run. She just walked forward slowly, her heels clicking on the polished gym floor. "Let her go," she said calmly. Amber's heart pounded, but she forced a laugh. "Or what? You'll call the principal again? You think we're scared of you?" Mrs. Johnson's eyes narrowed slightly. Her voice stayed even. "This is your last warning." Chloe and Stacy shifted nervously. Stacy muttered, "Amber, maybe we should know." Amber snapped. "She can't touch us. If she does, she proves everything." Amber shoved Maya one last time. "Go on, Mrs. Johnson. Show everyone who you really are." And then it happened. Mrs. Johnson moved faster than any of them could see. One moment she was 10 steps away. The next, she was standing right beside Amber, her hand gripping Amber's wrist firmly, but without pain. Amber gasped, her body frozen. She hadn't even seen her move. Mrs. Johnson leaned closer, her voice low and deadly calm. "Don't test me, child." Amber's bravado crumbled. Her knees weakened. She tried to pull away, but Mrs. Johnson's grip was unbreakable. Chloe dropped the notebook in shock. Stacy backed away, her eyes wide with terror. Maya stood silently, her face unreadable. At that exact moment, Principal Harris's voice echoed from the stage. "And now, let us thank the parents who volunteered for today's safety demonstration. Would you please join us?" The gym erupted in polite applause. Mrs. Johnson finally released Amber's wrist. She straightened, smoothed her blazer, and walked calmly toward the stage as if nothing had happened. Amber stood frozen, her heart racing. Everyone clapped. Everyone smiled. No one saw what had just happened in the corner of the gym, but Amber knew Mrs. Johnson wasn't just Maya's mom. She was something else. Something far more dangerous than Amber could have ever imagined. That night, Amber couldn't stop replaying it in her head. The speed, the grip, the calm authority. It wasn't human. It was training, government training. Her father's words echoed in her mind. Only people with high clearance have sealed records. Now she understood. Maya's mother wasn't just an FBI agent, she was more. But Amber also knew one more thing. If she told anyone, no one would believe her. And if she pushed too far, Mrs. Johnson might not hold back next time. Amber had never been this afraid before. Every time she looked at her wrist, she remembered the cold, firm grip of Mrs. Johnson's hand. It hadn't hurt, but it had been stronger than anything she had felt. Too strong, too fast, too precise. That night, Amber sat in her room, staring at her phone. She wanted to call Chloe. She wanted to tell Stacy. But she knew the truth. Both of them were done. They were too scared. They wouldn't help her anymore if Amber wanted answers. She had to find them herself. Her father was the key. Mr. Collins was a businessman, but he also had friends in important places. He liked to brag about his connections to police chiefs and city council members, and Amber knew he kept files. Late that night, after her parents had gone to bed, Amber crept into her father's home office. The room was dim, the air heavy with the smell of old paper and cologne. A locked filing cabinet sat against the wall. She had seen her father open it before with a small brass key. He kept in his desk drawer. Amber's hands trembled as she slid open the drawer and found the key. For a moment, she hesitated. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it might wake the whole house. Then she unlocked the cabinet. Inside were dozens of folders. Some were marked with business contracts. Others had police reports. And near the back, she found one labeled Johnson, L. Amber froze. She pulled the folder out and laid it on the desk. The first page was a photocopy of an ID card. It showed Mrs. Johnson's face, younger, but still sharp. The words stamped across it made Amber's blood run cold. Federal. Intelligence Division, Clearance Level 7. Amber's mouth went dry. She whispered the words aloud. Federal. Intelligence. She had never even heard of that division. FBI, yes. CIA, yes. But this. Level 7 clearance. Her hand shook as she flipped to the next page. It was a report. Most of the text was blacked out, but a few lines were visible. Agent Johnson relocated. Cover established. Daughter enrolled in local education facility. Objective: maintain surveillance on flagged individuals. Do not compromise identity. Amber's breath caught. Surveillance. Flagged individuals? Her eyes darted lower to the only unredacted note at the bottom. High risk of civilian exposure. Maintain extreme caution. Suddenly, Amber heard footsteps creaking upstairs. She panicked, stuffed the folder back into the cabinet, locked it, and shoved the key into the drawer. Then she raced to her bedroom. Slipping under the covers just as her father's heavy footsteps passed her door, she lay there, heart racing, sweat beading on her forehead. Now she knew. Maya's mother wasn't just FBI. She wasn't just a spy. She was something bigger. Something secret. Something hidden from everyone. And Amber had just touched a truth she wasn't supposed to see. The next morning at school, Amber couldn't stop staring at Maya. Maya sat in English class, quietly taking notes, her face calm as ever. She didn't seem dangerous. She didn't look like the daughter of a secret agent. She just looked normal, but Amber now knew better. Her eyes burned with obsession. She couldn't stop thinking, what if she's part of it too? What if Maya's being trained just like her mother? When class ended, Amber grabbed Chloe's arm in the hallway. I found proof, Amber whispered. Chloe frowned. Amber, please. Don't start. No, listen. Amber's voice shook. Her mom is in something called the Federal Intelligence Division. She has level 7 clearance. Do you know what that means? Chloe blinked, confused. It means she's government? Amber nodded quickly. Yes, but more. She's spying on people here. In this town, and Maya is part of it. Chloe pulled her arm away. Amber, this is insane. I don't care what her mom does. I just want to be safe. Amber's face hardened. Safe. None of us are safe, Chloe. Not while they're here. That afternoon, Amber stayed late at school. She followed Maya again, this time keeping her distance. Maya walked home, calm and steady. But halfway down the block, something strange happened. A man in a black suit stepped out of a car and joined her. He didn't speak. He just walked a few steps behind like a shadow. Amber's breath caught. They're protecting her. She ducked behind a tree, her eyes wide. Maya didn't look back. She didn't seem surprised by the man's presence. She just kept walking, as if this was completely normal. Amber's stomach twisted. They're guarding her. Why? She felt dizzy with fear and anger. That night, Amber couldn't keep it inside anymore. She stormed into her father's office. Dad, she demanded, tell me the truth about Mrs. Johnson. Her father looked up, startled. Amber, what are you talking about? I saw the files, she blurted out. I know she's not normal. She's part of some intelligence thing. Why is she here? Why is Maya here? Her father's face darkened. He stood and closed the office door. His voice was low, urgent. Amber, you should not have looked at that. I had to. Amber cried. She's dangerous. Her father shook his head. No, you don't understand. If you dig too deep, you'll put yourself in danger. These people don't play games. Amber's fists clenched. So you admit it. She's one of them. Mr. Collins sighed heavily. Yes, she's involved in something classified. But Amber, listen to me. You keep pushing, you'll ruin us. Do you understand? You'll ruin our family. Amber's throat tightened. But she's watching us. Why? Why our town? Her father's eyes flicked away. He didn't answer. That silence was worse than words. Later that night, Amber sat on her bed, shaking. Her father knew something. Maybe more than he admitted, but the truth was clear. Mrs. Johnson was here on a mission. And her family, including Maya, was part of it. Amber opened her notebook and began to write everything she knew. The notes. The warnings. The black car. The grip. The file. Piece by piece, she was building the story. A story no one else dared to tell. The next morning, Amber brought her notebook to school. She pulled Stacy aside in the bathroom. Look, Amber whispered, shoving the pages into her hands. Read this. Stacy skimmed through the notes, her eyes widening with every page. Amber, this is... Oh my God. It's proof, Amber said quickly. We're not crazy. She's hiding something. And now I can show everyone. Stacy's hands trembled. Amber, if you show this to people, they'll come after you. Amber's smile was cold. Let them. I'm not scared anymore. But inside she was terrified. That evening, Amber sat by her bedroom window, staring out at the dark street. Another black car was parked there. Same tinted windows. Same silent engine. She clutched her notebook tighter. She wasn't just watching them anymore now. They were watching her. Amber woke up with a start. It was still dark outside. Her alarm had not gone off. But something had woken her. A sound. A soft metallic clink at her window. She sat up slowly, heart pounding. The house was silent. Her parents were asleep down the hall. She listened again. Clinked. Amber slid out of bed, her bare feet touching the cold floor. She crept to the window and pulled the curtain back. Just a little, the black car was gone. But lying on the windowsill was a small, folded note. Her hands trembled as she opened the window and pulled it in. She unfolded the paper slowly. Inside was a single, typed sentence. Stop digging, or you'll end up like the others. Amber's heart stopped. She stared at the words until they blurred. She wanted to scream, but her voice caught in her throat. Who were the others? How had they gotten to her window? She dropped the note as if it burned her. It floated to the floor silently for the rest of the night. Amber sat on her bed, hugging her knees, staring at the dark window. She didn't sleep at all. At school the next morning, her face was pale. She looked different. Even Chloe and Stacy noticed. What happened to you? Chloe whispered. Amber didn't answer. She just shoved her bag into her locker and turned away. Stacy followed her into the hallway. Amber, talk to me, please. Amber stopped. She pulled the crumpled note from her pocket and shoved it into Stacy's hand. Read it. Stacy unfolded it, her eyes widening. Oh my God. Who sent this? Amber's voice cracked. I don't know, but they know where I live. Stacy looked around nervously. You can't stay at home. You have to tell someone. Amber shook her head. Tell who? The police? If they're with the government, the police won't help. Her eyes darted toward Maya, sitting quietly at her desk. She knows, Amber whispered. She has to know. In English class, Amber couldn't focus. She kept staring at the back of Maya's head. Maya was writing in her notebook calmly, her face unreadable. She didn't look like someone involved in a secret agency. She didn't look like someone who could ruin Amber's life, but Amber remembered her mother's grip. The files. The black car. The note at her window. Her heart pounded. When the bell rang, Amber followed Maya to the library. She waited until no one was around, then stepped in front of her. "We need to talk," Amber said sharply. Maya looked up. "About what?" Amber's voice trembled. "About your mother?" Maya's eyes narrowed. "What about her?" Amber leaned closer, her voice dropping. "I know what she is. I know who she works for. And now they're threatening me." For a moment, Maya's face flickered shock, worry, something else, but then she quickly masked it. "You should stop," Maya said softly. "For your own safety." Amber's heart raced. "So it's true." Maya didn't answer. She just turned and walked away, leaving Amber trembling. That evening, Amber tried to act normal at dinner. She smiled at her parents, answered their questions, but inside, she was shaking. When she went back to her room, another note was waiting on her pillow. This one wasn't typed. It was handwritten in bold black ink. "You were warned," Amber gasped. She looked around wildly. Her window was still locked. Her door was still closed. Someone had been in her room. She ran to her father's office, clutching the note. "Dad," she cried. "They're in the house." Her father stood up, alarmed. "Amber, what are you talking about?" She shoved the note at him. "Look." He read it, his face going pale. "Where did you get this?" "My room." She shouted. They broke in. Mr. Collins rubbed his forehead. "Amber, listen to me carefully. Do not talk to anyone else about this. Not Chloe. Not Stacy. No one." Amber's eyes filled with tears. "Why? What's happening?" His voice dropped to a whisper. "Because I can't protect you from them." "No one can." Amber stared at him, horrified. Later that night, Amber sat at her desk, staring at the two notes side by side. "Stop digging, or you'll end up like the others. You were warned." She wanted to burn them, or she couldn't. They were proof. Proof that everything she'd feared was real. Her phone buzzed. It was a text message from an unknown number. "You have one last chance. Walk away." Amber's hands shook so badly she dropped the phone. The next morning, she didn't go to school. She told her parents she was sick. She stayed in her room, curtains closed, lights off. She kept thinking about Maya's calm voice. "You should stop." Stop what? What would happen if she didn't? Her mind spiraled. At Lincoln High, Maya noticed Amber's empty seat. She frowned. Something about the absence made her uneasy. During lunch, she pulled out her phone and sent a message to her mother. "Amber not at school. Might be scared. Should we do something?" Her mother's reply came quickly. "No. Let her choose. But stay alert." Maya slipped the phone back into her pocket. She didn't like this. Not at all. That night, Amber sat at her window again, staring out at the street. The black car had returned. It just sat there, engine off. Windows dark. Amber's heart thudded painfully. She took a deep breath, grabbed her notebook, and began to write again. She didn't know what she was writing. Plans, fears, warnings, anything to keep her mind from breaking. She looked up once more. The car was gone. But now, on her window glass, there was a faint outline of a handprint. Amber backed away slowly. Her hands trembled. Her throat felt dry. The last note echoed in her mind. Walk away. But now she wasn't sure if she could. Amber could not take it anymore. The notes. The black car. The handprint on her window. They weren't just warnings anymore. They were proof. Proof that she was being watched every second. By Friday morning, her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She hadn't slept for 2 nights. Her eyes were red, her hair messy. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. But she had made a decision. If they wanted her to stop digging, fine. She would stop. But not until she got one last answer. Not until she faced Maya's mother herself. That afternoon, after school, Amber walked down Maple Street alone. Her backpack was heavy with her notebook inside, the one where she had written every detail. Every shadow, every warning, every note. The Johnson house stood quietly at the end of the block. The curtains were drawn. The air felt too still, too heavy. Amber stopped at the gate. Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. Her voice whispered in her mind, "Turn back, go home. Forget this." But another voice, louder, shouted back, "No, if you turn back now, you'll never be free." Face her. Amber pushed open the gate. She walked up the stone path, her shoes crunching softly. Every step felt like walking toward a cliff. She raised her hand and knocked on the door. For a moment, there was silence, then footsteps. The door opened. Mrs. Johnson stood there, her eyes sharp, her face calm as always. Amber's throat tightened, but she forced herself to speak. "We need to talk." Mrs. Johnson studied her for a long moment. Then she opened the door wider. "Come in." Amber stepped into the house. The air smelled faintly of coffee and paper. The living room was neat, almost too neat. Everything in its place. Maya sat on the couch with a book in her lap. Her eyes widened when she saw Amber. "What are you doing here?" Amber ignored her. She turned to Mrs. Johnson. "I know who you are." Mrs. Johnson raised an eyebrow. "Do you?" Amber's voice shook. "Federal Intelligence Division. Level 7 clearance. I saw the files. You're not just Maya's mom. You're here on some mission. You're watching us." Maya's face went pale. Amber but Mrs. Johnson held up a hand, silencing her. Her eyes never left Amber's. Slowly, Mrs. Johnson closed the door. The click of the lock echoed through the room. Amber's stomach twisted. She suddenly felt trapped. But she had come too far to stop now. "Why?" Amber demanded. "Why are you here? Why this town? Why my school?" Mrs. Johnson walked slowly to the armchair and sat down. She crossed her legs, her expression calm. "You think you're ready for answers?" she said quietly. "But answers come with consequences." Amber clenched her fists. "I don't care. You've been threatening me. Leaving notes at my window? Watching me." Mrs. Johnson tilted her head slightly. "Is that what you believe?" Amber froze. "What? What do you mean?" Maya spoke suddenly, her voice trembling. "Amber, it wasn't us." Amber whipped her head toward her. "Don't lie to me." Mrs. Johnson's eyes narrowed. "She's telling the truth. We haven't written a single note to you. We haven't touched your house." Amber's skin went cold. "Then who had?" Mrs. Johnson leaned forward, her eyes piercing. "You think you're the hunter, Amber, but you've been the target all along." Amber's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her knees felt weak. "What? What are you saying?" Mrs. Johnson's voice dropped lower. "The moment you broke into your father's files, you exposed yourself. Do you really think you were the first person to try? Others before you looked too deep. That's why the warnings say what they do. The others?" Amber's stomach churned. Then, the notes. The car. "Not mine," Mrs. Johnson said firmly. "Not Maya's. Another branch? Watching you? Waiting to see if you'd stop?" Amber's legs shook. She grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. Maya closed her book slowly. Her voice was soft, but steady. "We tried to protect you, Amber. That's why my mom warned you. But you didn't listen." Amber felt dizzy. Her head spun with too many thoughts at once. If Mrs. Johnson wasn't sending the notes, then who was? And why? Her voice cracked. "Then, what do they want from me?" Mrs. Johnson's eyes darkened. "They want silence. And if you can't give it, they'll take it." Amber's breath caught. Her whole body went cold. She had thought she was in control. She had thought she was clever. But now she realized she was just a piece on someone else's board. The room was heavy with silence. Finally, Amber whispered, "So what happens to me now?" Mrs. Johnson looked at her for a long time. Then she stood and walked to the window. She pulled back the curtain just slightly. Outside, parked across the street, it's the same black car. Waiting. watching Mrs. Johnson let the curtain fall. Her voice was quiet, but filled with weight. "That depends on you." Amber's heart raced. She didn't know what terrified her more, the car outside, or the calm certainty in Mrs. Johnson's voice. For the first time, Amber understood something she never had before. This wasn't a game. This wasn't bullying. This was survival, and she wasn't sure she could survive it. Amber couldn't move. She stood frozen in Mrs. Johnson's living room, her heart pounding so loud it filled her ears. Outside, the black car waited. Its engine was off, its windows dark, silent, patient. "They've been there all this time." Amber whispered. Mrs. Johnson didn't answer. She only turned, her face calm but her eyes sharp. "They never left." Amber's throat felt dry. She looked at Maya, hoping for some comfort, but Maya's face was pale. Her hands clenched tightly around her book. Amber finally forced out words. "Who are they? What do they want?" Mrs. Johnson stepped closer, her voice low. "They're not after me. They're after you." Amber stumbled back. "Me? Why?" "I didn't do anything." Mrs. Johnson's voice cut through her panic. "You did. You broke into your father's files. You touched information you should never have seen. That made you visible." Amber shook her head. No, I didn't mean it." "Doesn't matter what you meant," Mrs. Johnson said coldly. "They don't forgive mistakes." The silence grew heavy again. Then 3 sharp knocks rattled the front door. Amber jumped, her blood running cold. Knock. 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 Slow. Measured. Mrs. Johnson's jaw tightened. She didn't move. Amber's heart screamed, "Don't open it!" But Mrs. Johnson finally stepped forward and pulled the door open. 2 men stood outside. Both were tall, dressed in plain black suits. Their faces were calm, but their eyes were sharp, calculating. Behind them, the black car's headlights flickered on. "Mrs. Johnson," one man said. His voice was smooth, too smooth. "We need to have a word." Mrs. Johnson didn't flinch. "This is not the time." The man's eyes slid past her, landing on Amber. Amber's stomach twisted. He smiled faintly. "Ah, there she is." Maya rushed forward, placing herself between Amber and the door. "Leave her alone." The second man spoke for the first time, his tone like ice. "She opened a door that cannot be closed. Now she belongs to us." Amber's knees went weak. Her voice shook. "I don't belong to anyone." The first man tilted his head. "Then why are you shaking?" Mrs. Johnson moved suddenly. She stepped fully into the doorway, blocking both men. Her presence filled the space like a wall. "You're not taking her," she said firmly. The first man's smile faded. "You think you can protect her forever? Even you don't have that power." Mrs. Johnson's voice dropped lower. "Try me." The air between them felt like it could break into flames. Amber felt her chest tighten. She didn't understand half of what was happening, but she knew one thing: this was bigger than her. Bigger than bullies. Bigger than school. This was war. And somehow she was standing in the middle of it. The 2 men finally stepped back. Their smiles returned, calm and dangerous. "This isn't over," the first man said. The second added, "Every choice has a cost. She'll pay her soon." Then they turned and walked back to the black car. The engine roared to life. Slowly. It rolled down the street and disappeared into the night. The silence left behind was suffocating. Amber's body trembled. Her legs gave out and she sank onto the couch. What just happened?" Maya rushed to her side, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You saw it. They were here for you." Amber looked at Mrs. Johnson, her voice barely a whisper. "Why didn't they take me?" Mrs. Johnson closed the door, locking it tight. Then she turned, her expression unreadable. "Because," she said slowly, "they're not finished with you yet." Amber buried her face in her hands. Her life had changed forever. She wasn't just a girl at school anymore. She was marked. Maya sat beside her. "You're not alone. We'll fight this together." Amber lifted her eyes. For the first time, she believed Maya. But she also knew this was only the beginning. The notes, the car, The men in black suits, none of it was over. The shadows were still watching, waiting, as the clock ticked past midnight. Amber wrote her last words in her notebook. The bullies were nothing. The real danger was never them. The real danger is what waits in the dark, and it's waiting for me. She closed the book, her hand trembling. Somewhere outside, camera lens clicked in the dark. The shadows had revealed themselves, but their game had just begun.